But there we are. We're live, baby. Well, we're not live, as it turns out. We are recording. We're recording.
Anyone who's listening is not getting this live.
No, this is, in fact, not live.
But we are, in fact, living in this moment.
We are. We're both alive. Oh, yeah. So I'm Adam.
And I'm Jake.
And we're the Hammered Brothers. Although, admittedly not hammered at the moment.
No,
Sadly.
slacking.
Yeah, we might get there a little bit later on. We'll see how this goes. So we don't have anything in particular to be talking about this evening, although we both recently saw a movie, Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
So what do you think of Into the Spider-Verse, Jake?
I would say remarkably good.
Remarkably good. Now, how interesting that we would start off having a podcast or a video blog or whatever the heck you want to call these things with a positive review of a movie. As you get to know us, that is not going to be something that you get used to.
No.
Because generally, we hate everything.
True.
Generally.
I mean, I would like our topics to... I think we'll pick a lot of topics based on things that we do like, though, which is...
Yeah.
And things that we will, because we're going to pick topics of things that interest us, and we tend to enjoy things that interest us. I think movies is probably going to be our weak point.
Yeah, that's true. There's going to be a lot of movies that are really close to being really good, but fall utterly short in so many ways that prevent them from being even something that I can wholeheartedly recommend in most cases. So
yeah, I think we both become pretty hard on movies over the years. I feel for good reason. Other people might disagree.
Yeah, almost certainly will disagree. But Into the Spider-Verse, however, is one of those rare exceptions that was quite good. In fact, I really didn't know anything about the movie. I've been kind of unplugged from a lot of current movie trailers and stuff like that. And my wife and our older daughter had went to a movie. I don't remember what movie they went to see. But they went to a movie and they saw the preview for Into the Spider-Verse. And my wife, being the wonderful person that she is, had no idea what to think about it. And said it looked really weird.
It did look weird.
And it was weird. It was wonderfully weird.
Yeah, surface level, it does not conceptually seem like a movie that would work. Certainly not as a standalone introduction to a specific version of this character. But really, I don't know. I went into it having heard good recommendations from multiple sources, which I take with a grain of salt. There are these same sources have recommended things to me before that I have not enjoyed at all. But yeah, I went into it. I said I'm gonna watch this. I'm going to pay attention, so I didn't have any distractions, which is abnormal for me when consuming media these days. And yeah, within 10 minutes,
especially movies.
Within 10 minutes, this movie had won me over. Honestly.
Yeah, it may have taken a little bit longer for me to get to warm up to it. It starts off very strange. Well, not very strange. It just starts out kind of slow moving. I mean, there's the intro, big flashy intro, and there's, and he's talking about Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and then all of a sudden I'm on to this different character who I didn't know. Perhaps other people would tell me that this is a Spider-Man that has been out there for a while. I don't know if this is a brand new iteration of Spider-Man or what it is, but it is. I was not expecting to all of a sudden cut away from Peter Parker and then you're into this completely different character.
And I had an awareness that Miles Morales had taken Peter Parker's place as Spider-Man in the comics some time ago. I don't know if he completely took over or if they're still making Peter Parker-based comic books. I do not pay attention to comic books, honestly.
Yeah, I also do not. So I had no idea about that. So then you're in with this Miles character, which is great. I like his character. He's kind of funny, kind of quirky, got a great family. Of course, I like that kind of thing. So. So that's all fun, but it's just kind of slow moving, not really sure what to think. It's kooky, it's zany, the the banter, especially early on, like when his dad's bringing him to school, pretty silly. I really like the bit when the dad's in the car yet, and he's like over the intercom. He's like, "Oh, you got to say it back. Got to say it back." Ah, so good. I love that. But yeah, so I wasn't really sure where the movie was going at that point. You know, it was still working on a few things. I mean, they were really hammering the Miles Morales awkwardness factor.
Right.
Which worked. That actually ended up being a good thing later on in the show. But yeah, so I wasn't, it took me until the, when the other Peter Parker shows up to really start warming up to the movie. And then it was, from that point forward, really, it was a ride.
Yeah.
It really was.
I wish I could remember when. It's at some point, and like maybe it wasn't 10 minutes, maybe it was 15 minutes. I don't know. I wasn't timing it, but I like burst out laughing at some point at something.
Yeah, I was watching it in my office on my computer, and and I had headphones on, and my wife was in the other room, and I was the same. I couldn't help but like just outbursts of laughter, which again is not common.
No.
Not for me.
And it's interesting. I mean, you think it's an animated movie.
Beautifully animated, I might add.
It probably wouldn't have worked as live action.
No, no.
I shouldn't even say probably. There's no way.
No way, no.
So there's that, because it has moments of what can only be described as, I guess, slapstick.
Yeah, well.
Which work, which normally that does not appeal to me at all. But in this movie, they made it work.
Yeah, it really did work. There were, it really caught me by surprise, because when it decided to go, I couldn't even say off the rails. It was going exactly where it was supposed to go. I just was incredibly unprepared for it. The animation, beautifully done animation. There's no way that could have possibly worked any other way. You know, and we've talked in the past about subversion and how that is such an overused kind of thing that is done in a lot of ways. Star Wars, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, now it is.
Now it is.
I feel like 2 years ago that wouldn't have necessarily been a thing you would say.
Right. But there were things that were subversive in the movie that actually played into the movie's strengths. They actually presented it in such a way that it made sense, and it kind of, you know, kept you guessing a little bit, which I was totally okay with. Very few cliches in there, at least that I really picked up on an initial watch. You know, there was a little bit stuff with the uncle. You know, you kind of saw that he was going to be the villain. You kind of knew that there was going to be the origin story and struggle thing going on, and all of that is fine, good even, and it was handled with really well handled.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it even called itself out on his origin story at one point.
Broke the fourth wall a little bit there. So
yeah,
that was
they
knew
knew
what
what they
done.
were doing.
They knew what they were doing.
They embraced it. They did it. They did it right.
Yeah, and so many movies out there neglect to actually develop a character, and here you have such a clear character that develops. He starts off as this awkward, you know, not sure of himself person, doesn't really want to do anything, you know, he wants to kind of slack off. And by the end, he's like, you know, I've got to go for it.
Yeah.
And it's a good journey all the way through it. It really does work.
Yeah, I mean, there were things. It's not a perfect movie.
Not a perfect
no movie
movie.
is a
No,
perfect movie. I would say he gets there a little too fast at
Oh
the
yeah,
end.
yeah. There's it's a whoop right there at the end. So
Yeah. But you know, it feels earned though.
It does.
It went a little too far, too fast, but it still felt earned.
It did. Yeah. Yeah. It was well handled, and I loved the Nicolas Cage character. I'm not familiar with Batman Noir, whatever that character was or is or any of
No,
that.
Me either.
But that was brilliant.
Yeah.
That was great. The Penny Parker was a lot of fun. That's a completely different take on Spider-Man. I'd never seen any of that. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's a thing.
I don't either. I
No
don't know
idea.
if these are all actual versions of Spider-Man that have been done elsewhere in media. I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Spider-Ham, a
Peter
lot of
Porker.
fun. Peter Porker. Yeah. Spider.
Just silly.
I was bitten by a radioactive pig.
Nah,
Good
it
stuff.
was perfect that they had the three versions of Spider-Man that were kind of the main characters, and then the other three were kind of just outliers. They were there. They
Yeah.
served their purpose.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
added to the zaniness. They added a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But they weren't the focus, and that was probably good. They focused on the right ones.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, again, I hate to drum on it, but it's just so rare to see a movie that's handled the way that it needed to be handled. They did it the right way
Yeah.
for the most part.
I can't get over how well developed they made the three main characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Peter
they did
Parker,
it so
Gwen,
fast.
Miles. Yeah.
Yeah.
They did it. Oh, they did
so
it fast.
fast.
It's part of that's because everybody is familiar with the Peter Parker Spider-Man story, so you
True.
didn't have to dwell on that.
Yeah.
People are peripherally familiar with the Gwen Stacy story, although I'd never heard it done that way.
Right.
So it was pretty easy to accept that on its face, and of course her big loss was her best friend Peter Parker, which of course that immediately resonates. And she was a lot of fun just as a character herself. I mean, I wasn't sure what to think of her initially until all of a sudden she swoops in out of nowhere, and then you're like, oh, now I get why she was in those places that they had her earlier in the movie. That made a lot of sense. Kind of all clicked at that point. Oh, but I know this is a complete aside. When they are in Doc Ock's office, and he's like, he grabs the computer and the monitor.
That was so good.
And then Peter Parker comes
Aw,
out.
that
The good news is we don't need this, and he just dumps it.
That was definitely one of my laugh out loud moments.
Yes.
it was good.
Yeah, because you just don't know how smart a movie is going to be, and I was a little worried that that was the way it was going to be. And when he chucked that, I was like, yes, so satisfying, so
So
satisfying. Yep. But, it started off when you first meet Spider-Man in the current dimension, and that's a little dark. That was a little dark there,
Yeah.
So, that was one of the things that it took me a little bit of time just to warm up, because I wasn't sure, was the movie going to be a real dark kind of thing? But then, it picks up pretty quickly after that. I think that's the darkest the movie ever gets.
Yeah. It.
Spoilers. The whole thing has been spoilers, so I'm sorry.
It has. Yeah.
But even when the uncle dies, that was not handled in nearly as dark a way.
No.
It was. In fact, if I was going to complain about something, there was not enough emotional impact behind that death. It's like you hadn't developed the uncle enough
No.
to give that more impact. That's maybe my biggest criticism, is that could have been a lot more of an emotional gut punch.
Yeah, I agree. He was. He only really had the one scene with Miles early on.
Yeah, and it was obvious that they were close. I mean, the character was great as far as that interaction with him and his uncle.
Yeah.
Really well handled, a lot of fun. But, there were just some kind of question marks around who is this guy? Obviously he likes him. There's some animosity with him and his brother, so you're not sure what's going on there. And that's never really truly explained,
Yeah,
although you can
not
kind
fleshed
of decide that there's how much did the brother know and how involved and so forth, Yeah, you just don't. I mean, it just wasn't there. They didn't explain it. It didn't need to be.
Even now thinking back, I don't really understand why his dad disapproved of the uncle. I
don't know.
I feel like I missed it. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if that was in there.
I think he's just wasn't, just didn't really approve of the kind of playboy lifestyle and
I
stuff
guess
like that.
he was living the bachelor life.
Yeah.
It kind of looked like.
Yeah, a little. a little thuggish maybe, you
Yeah.
know, and the dad was a real straight and, straight and narrow kind of guy. I mean, he was a police officer, obviously.
Yeah,
So.
but I mean, the uncle seemed well kept, and
Yeah.
he
Heck yeah.
put together, lived in a nice
Sharp,
looking
yeah,
apartment.
sharp, had
so
a great look, you know. Oh, yeah.
so yeah, it's hard to. So that's where it's like was he really thuggish? I didn't
I don't
feel
know.
like it.
No, not.
I think
nah,
the
that's-
playboy
yeah,
aspect
the
is
play-
probably
yeah,
more
that's-
accurate.
Yeah. Yep, that's right. Yep, that's right. So, but yeah, like I said, I mean, I don't know how else to describe it as far as the movie as a whole goes. It just was handled exceptionally well. The animation, beautiful to look at, very interesting. You know, the way they portrayed Kingpin,
Oh my
I
God.
thought was a little over the top, but
I mean, his character model was
giganticness.
a little bit on the large side.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, as a character,
Oh, the character was great.
perfect. I don't know if I can point to another villain who got so well fleshed out in such a short period of time, I guess, who had motivation that wasn't just revenge or I want to rule the world. How rare is that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was clearly a bad guy.
Yep.
Willing to get his hands dirty. Literally dirty. But also, they gave you just enough to make you feel a little bit of sympathy for him.
Yeah,
You
not
know,
a lot.
Not enough to make you want to root for the bad guy or
Just
anything
enough
like
to
that.
see that he is in fact a believable person.
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
way,
Yep.
even if he is a terrible person.
Yeah. Like, I've never seen The Sopranos, for instance. That's one I'd really like to go back and watch at some point. But I think that's how they did a lot of the stuff with The Sopranos is they were obviously bad guys, but they
Yeah.
were also the guys that you kind of wanted to root for a little bit.
Sure.
Root for me. But with Kingpin's character, I mean, just enough that you felt some sympathy there. Clear motivations, not just, again, like you said, I want to rule the world.
Yeah, it's getting sickening how many villains are just revenge, rule the world.
Yeah.
It's revenge or it's rule the world. Which ones are going to be this time? It's so
Yeah.
uninteresting.
And while, yes, at the end there was a big battle that took place and there was destruction that took place, they didn't have to destroy a whole city.
No.
How about that?
Yeah,
It wasn't
obviously-
Man of Steel
Yeah,
taking down an entire city.
I mean, okay, so if the machine messed up, obviously their whole reality would have been destroyed. So there were stakes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I
without
guess.
a doubt.
So yeah.
But it wasn't, far be it from, because we'll talk about Avengers Infinity War at some point, I'm sure.
At some
But there's another movie that Avengers of Infinity War could have been half an hour shorter. Easily.
Oh yeah.
And most of it was just the ridiculous over-the-top CG action scenes that it just had, this army of CG characters versus this army of CG characters and just going at it.
Yeah.
It's like, I just don't care. There's no story happening. There's nothing happening there. Whereas here at the end, you really just had the main characters fighting. A lot of it was, one-on-one, two-on-one, two-on-two type of stuff, and the stakes were there. I mean, even Penny Parker's character, the robot, I mean, got wrecked. That's like a big deal.
It was her father's robot that he had made, apparently.
Yeah, and was apparently I did read a little bit online about some of that character and stuff like that, and that's like that robot was a pretty seriously connected part of her and her dad, and how all that kind of plays together. I mean, so that was a supposedly quite a loss for her,
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, good, really well done, amazingly fleshed out, well motivated, beautifully animated movie. I'm not sure what else I can really add. The dumb thing is, when a movie is good, we don't have as much to talk about.
Yeah, which is fine. I'm good with leaving it there.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, absolutely recommend. Into the Spider-Verse. For anyone who hasn't seen it, go out and see it.
Yeah.
It's remarkably kid-friendly.
Yeah, great movie for all ages.
Yeah, you know, I have two daughters. They're quite young yet. One of them is just about 6 years old. Didn't have any problem with the dark sequences, and those are pretty quickly.
Yeah, I felt it was good that they got the darkest one over about a third of the way into the movie.
Yeah,
that was definitely the darkest part right there, and then it had a lot of high.
Yeah,
good
messages as far as moral of the story goes and all that kind of stuff.
Really good.
So I would recommend it for anybody. You know, you don't want to let turn your kids loose on it if they're not with an adult and stuff like that. But great one to watch with your kids, and the adults will really enjoy it as well. Mm-hmm. A lot of fun stuff in there for grown-ups.
Yeah, if you have even a passing interest in Spider-Man, you will get a lot out of this.
Yeah, so that's our recommendation, our sort of review for Into the Spider-Verse. I'm Adam.
And I'm Jake.
And we're the Hammered Brothers, although, again, not hammered right now.
Unhammered.
So maybe next time. All right, thanks, folks. Have a good night, or morning, or afternoon, or
whatever it is, wherever you are.
All right, we'll see ya. Well, should we...